Welcome to Oh Brother, a podcast of three brothers trying to figure it all out, with your hosts, Brandon, Collin, and Aaron. On this week's show, very strange people. Hello!
Ahoy!
Ahoy, ahoy and a half.
Oh, wow, and a half. There we go.
And a half, yes.
It's official.
A little bit of extra fun in there.
Ooh, extra spiciness. All right, I like it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, that's certainly something. Of course, right as we're recording right now, my neighbors decided that at this instant is when they want to drag their trash cans out to the front, which means that Kobe is now barking his face off. So give me 1 minute.
Yeah, no problem. It's okay, Kobe. The trash can won't get you. Good job guarding the house, buddy.
Okay, and we're back. Oh my gosh. So sorry about that.
That's all right. It's all right. No worries. Got to tend to Kobe. This is priorities, right? It's fine.
It is. Edit point, 30 seconds. Here we go. So,
just keeping the house safe from all those fiendish trash cans out there, right?
They are quite fiendish, indeed.
So it's all right, Kobe. Good job, buddy.
Bean's extraordinaire. He's doing his job. I know.
Yeah.
So, yes. I there are times where I go, man, I'm really busy. I do lots of stuff. And then there are times where I am 7 browser tabs deep into trying to build a chat bot based on. Oh, yeah. Here we are. A couple reasons. I don't like how people are very used to searching for data and information and questions, and something I really want to do is actually to see if there's a way, or if I can find a company that does this or whatever, where I just want to feed it my training videos, all of my SOPs and my handbooks for my company, and then I can just have a little portal where like staff can go and ask questions, or reference materials that we make, or have a little help chat somewhere on our website about things, or like create one based off of, like have a chatbot based on this podcast. So like we would just feed it all of the hours and hours of content to generate, like, that way it would be the definitive like top 5 responses. Like you ask it anything and it would give you like boom, boom, like this is what you want.
That sounds sweet / terrifying at the same time, right? Like what it would spit out from this podcast specifically. Like,
yes.
What are you gonna get?
But that's perfect because you just never know.
That's true. I mean, that is the tagline of the show, right? Yes. Who knows what'll happen?
Who knows what will happen? So I've had to close down all of those and save that until later.
There you go. All right.
Unfortunately.
Okay. You can group them all into a singular tab and then just minimize it to one tab, right?
Right. I could. So, I could do that.
That's what I do on my work computer, right? Yeah. I have that, right? I have them all I put them for like, if I'm doing, like the other day, I had a bunch of tabs open because I was researching like stuff that I was talking about, right? So I had like a tab that was like for like my science class, and then I had like one that was for Egypt, and then I have another one open with like 6 tabs in it that may or may not be Tolkien related. Everything's fine. And then I have one that's like, for lunchtime when you're not doing nothing, just pop it open. I have some for like RTI for like reading stuff, right? For like when I have to teach reading things, because I always forget about things like that because I'm not a primary reading teacher. So I'm like, I need this. And I just like keep them all in like my little,
so
I could blast it open there. Yeah, I do that. This was kind of I can't tell if this discovery that you can group tabs and color code them together improved my life or made it infinitely worse. I don't really know.
Oh, I
don't know. Don't know if it was. I don't know if it's helping me or hindering me in my daily life.
You know,
Some days it's hard to know.
I was never a color code person when it came to, like, I know many
I don't
people
color like code them, but I just make them all different colors. Otherwise, they'll all be blue, and I can't find the one that I want fast enough, right?
Yeah.
So you can assign them a color. So it's like this one's green, just so that I can tell the difference between which one is which. Not like this one's blue because, science is blue. Science is not blue. Science is green, by the way, just in case you're wondering. But
that makes sense. Well, I mean, I used to do that with folders for class topics.
Yeah.
And subject matters.
Yeah.
But also, I know people who would when they would study, they would have highlighters for different things that they would highlight in different colors. And that really hurt my brain trying to remember.
I didn't do that.
Yeah,
I did come. I think I
highlight certain like the keyword was in one color and the definition was another, and then like a summary was in a different color, whatever. Yeah, no, I did not do that.
I didn't do that. I did one year, like towards the end of college. I finally decided, like, oh hey, this would be a good idea, right? I think I might have mentioned this before on here, but it was a long time ago. If only we had a chatbot. We could find it.
Talking about.
But I started taking all my notes in a binder in a notebook that was grid paper, right? So I started writing everything in grid paper notebooks, which is kind of cool because you can write things in different orientations very easily, if you need to do that. And so I decided I bought just some I just bought like a pack of those Pilot G2 pens,
Sure.
And I decided that like important information I would write in red, right? Like standard notes were like just in black,
Yeah.
Like homework assignments I wrote in like green, so I could find them. And then I don't remember what I did with the blue one, but it was also there. They all had jobs. If I could find that binder, I don't know where it is right now, so I'm not going to go looking for it. But I just gave every like thing that I needed a different color. That way, when I was like, oh dang it, like for one of my like science classes, we had to have definitions because for science you need definitions for like everything, right? So I was like, oh man, I don't know where that is, and so I just flipped through and be like, oh, there it is. Because it was red and it was like, or whatever color. And I was like, oh, boom, there it is. So I did that. And I was like, oh, hey, this works pretty good. It doesn't work for all classes, but for a lot of classes, it was really handy because that way you could have like, you could just go back and look at all your homework. And because it was grid paper, right, you could just box out the homework section and then make little check boxes next to the things you had to do. Yeah. And so when you did them all, you could just go back and make sure that everything was done. And then.
Yeah.
So that was the final form that I
had to keep track of that.
When you have like so many classes, you're trying to like keep track of so many different things all at one time. It was very handy. I don't remember where it was. I found this like multi-subject grid paper notebook. The thing was amazing. And I still have it someplace because it still has paper in it. So I like tore all my notes out and filed them somewhere. And I just have the notebook because it's awesome, but it's in my desk drawer someplace. But otherwise I would shield the brand because it's very good. But like, because some random like, okay, hold on, time out.
Okay.
Okay, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be. Jeez. It's just like literally right here. But it's 5 subject and the grid paper. So it's like the first section is blue grid paper, and then there's red grid paper, and then there's green grid paper, and then purple, and then gray.
Oh,
yeah.
Sounds cool.
Well, yeah, so like to do things were green. And then here's some notes in blue. Anyway, I don't actually this company appears to have a name that is incomprehensible to me. So that's fun. It's MR Designs, I guess. But I don't know this word. MIQUELRIUS. I don't know what that means. But
That's weird.
That is a word that I don't know. But this notebook thing is absolutely sick. It's great.
Huh. 5 subjects.
Yeah. MR
Design.
And the opening, there's a thing in here. This has like a title page with a little note, and it's definitely in Spanish. So there you go.
So I'm on that company's website right now.
Yeah.
And MR, yeah, I have no idea what that word
It's definitely
is.
Spanish. Millions de personas has ingladio nuestros productos para transmitir sus proyectos internos y ya sea sobre papel o a través de nuestros complementos de SADA 1839, por menos querer facilitar la expresión de sus emociones.
Interestingly, they do have notebook emotions on here. Is one of their key central focus points of.
Yeah, that's what this. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Well,
it helps. The English translation here says to express their thoughts, idea, and style.
Notebooks 1839 is what yours is.
Yeah, to express help you self-expression either on paper or through our accessories. So whatever this mystery company is that I don't know, this MR Designs company, shout out, because this is
how did you even
some good quality stuff
come across this? This is weird.
I imagine this is some random thing that I found on Amazon. Right? I feel like that's what this was.
It looks like they have some moleskin kind of esque paper notebooks in here.
Oh yeah, the back here. It's the back. Product of Spain. There we go.
Oh,
boom.
Hey, that makes sense. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I think I probably searched for just grid paper, notebook, spiral binder thing.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's spiral bound grade paper. It's like full size paper too, right? So it's very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I like it. MR Designs, shout out for excellent paper products. There we go.
All your paper product needs.
Yes.
Huh. Yeah. Most of my paper was in school was the 5-star paper notebooks, and then color coded notebooks for each subject matter.
Yeah, I did definitely color coded folders.
Yes.
Right. I think I usually just did one I did the 5 subject the paper notebook thing. But then every class just had its own folder. And it was just a different color just to facilitate ease of finding it in a backpack. Right. It wasn't really it was just aha, this is English class. I need this folder for English. English class folders are yellow, by the way, in case you're curious. This is
yes, they are
the appropriate. My personal. I think we talked about this as well.
I think we do.
It was probably thousands of episodes ago, so we'll just see here. I remember English yellow often. Social studies is definitely blue, and science is green. Other subjects, I don't really think I had that much of a concern over, but those are maybe because I don't really think I had to have a math folder. Math would have been red, though. I think probably. Yeah. This is my choice of appropriate folders for classes. So that's my.
Yeah, there's a whole articles and written stuff about this, but yes, I think sometimes red would sometimes be for English for me, but yes, science was definitely green until I would because there were some years where I was taking like in college
like multiple sciences. That's science. Fair, right?
Right. So like physics was purple, but my like terrestrial science classes and geology were green. But
makes sense.
My like if it was more aquatic or whatever, obviously that would have to be blue.
What color is chemistry?
Chemistry. Well, if I had chemistry, that chemistry was red. I will say.
That's red. See, there you go. That goes. It's mathy, right? It's most mathy.
It's mathy. Yeah. And then black was just whatever was left over that I didn't want.
When you need the other folder, you're like, oh, I need another one.
I need another one.
I guess this one.
Yes.
Black's hard because then you have to like get a label to put on it because you can't just like write whatever you need. If you need to label the front so you remember, right? Like in the top corner so you can find it easily. Yes. It's annoying because you got to get a label or.
Well, and even this, like
inside,
like trying to get colors, and the other part was having good colors that had a lot of difference between them, so that you could.
That's true.
Because then I would have to have an order for them in my backpack, so that when you looked down from the top, you could instantly reach in and grab. Like there was enough contrast between them.
So you had to put something between blue and like violet, for example. No Roy G. Biv order for you. Right?
No, okay. I would have to have them very distinct.
Gotcha.
Because otherwise, brain just
makes sense. Makes sense. It's the second time I've said Roy G. Biv today too. By the way, that's really weird that it's just come up so often today. It's very odd.
Huh. What was the first? What?
We're talking about the eternal question in science: why is the sky blue? Right.
Yes.
And so we were talking about how nitrogen and oxygen scatter blue light because they're just the right size to get in the way of blue light wavelengths to scatter them. And I was like, yeah, if you remember your boy Roy G. Biv from younger elementary school, and about half the class was like, oh yeah, and the other half was like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
I was explaining to them that all light has different wavelengths, which is what makes it different colors, right? It's one of the things that makes it different colors. And so that was a fun conversation. A lot of like confused looks. And so also the second mention of chemistry today, because we're talking about atmospheric composition, we got to talk about elements and the periodic table. Hooray!
And understanding what elements, what the composition. Well, I don't know if you talked about like what the composition of air is.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about, like the gases that make up the atmosphere. And so I was basically I just showed it to him. I said, now you can say you've seen it. And we need to know that all of these things are different sizes. Right? That's what's going to be important for our discussion today, right? Mm-hmm. We need to know that like not all molecules are the same size. So, like, for example, this chart handily puts them in size order for you. So you can tell immediately which one is bigger based on the number that it has. So that was fun. We got to see that, like, yeah, like just kind of like a tour of the periodic table, just very basic stuff.
Sure. But, which is fine.
Yeah, it was fun. Yes. Very eventful day in 6th grade, right? Because, well, here we go. Today's episode of 6th graders are very strange people. We had a group of students. They came back to my class in the afternoon, and they just had this bowl of something. I couldn't tell what it was, and they were like eating out of it, which is not in and of itself like a weird thing because they do stuff like that all the time. And so I was just like, what are you eating? And they're like, oh yeah, we made cookie dough at lunch. And I was like, you what?
What?
How?
In what way?
Why? Well, the first thing, I looked at them square in the face and was like, please tell me there are no eggs in that. And they're like, oh no, we left those. I was like, okay.
Right.
Thank you. I don't think the nurse wants to deal with salmonella today. That's not really something very exciting.
No.
But yeah, they found it on TikTok, obviously. And they made like a no egg cookie dough, and then we're just eating it. They brought stuff from their house. They're like, one person brought like flour, and somebody brought some like chocolate chips, and somebody brought like the sugar, and they got milk from the cafeteria, and somebody brought some like butter, and they like mixed it all in this bowl.
That's quite the how do they coordinate all that, right?
I have absolutely no idea. I was just saying that like, what? It's like, listen, this is a very weird thing that just happened, but I do have to give you some credit for this like ingenuity, right? It's a kind of pretty ingenious little situation you came up with here.
Yeah. You almost want to be like, where's this level of involvement in planning when it comes to like
why you got late assignments if you can do this, right? What's happening here?
Yeah, right.
Like now you got no excuse. You got messed up. Now you outed yourself about how clever you are. Now you gotta tell me why you're missing assignments for me. Huh? What's that about?
Right. Yeah. See, I know you can do this now, so
Exactly.
Oh, that's so bizarre.
What? It was very bizarre.
Huh.
Yeah. It's weird. Very weird. So yeah, that was my day today. Just being like, what is happening? Sometimes I just stop and I'm like, what is happening right now?
Is this world even real?
Yeah, right. That's what it's like. It's like, what's going on?
What has happened
today? So, yes, that was my fun today. Just being like, what? Yeah. So, other than that, this week's been going pretty okay for not having school at all last week. Kablam! That's handy.
You really ended up not going all week?
Nope. We didn't go all week. We got canceled Friday too.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
I guess what happened Thursday, the roads got like, Thursday was kind of warm, and so it started melting and stuff. But there was so much ice on the road already that it just got slushy, and then it refroze mega hard Thursday night. So, like, I guess even on Thursday, like afternoon, like parents were posting stuff on Facebook because Susan saw it and was like, "Here's a picture of the road by our house," and it was just the worst thing.
Yeah.
It was just awful. So even we went outside and walked on Thursday, and it was still like we test walking on some of the parts that hadn't been plowed off, and it was pretty slick, right? So buses would not have liked that.
No. Oh my gosh.
So that made Monday very confusing. So I was like, what was I doing?
I don't know. Right.
Where is I'm pretty sure we did some worksheets a week ago. Where did I put those? I probably need to grade that. Where did they go?
Yeah. Oh man.
So I found that we had to make up a bunch of stuff, right? We had to make up the spelling bee because that was supposed to be last week. Whoopsie daisy. So we had to have that yesterday. Yeah. So spelling bee happened. They had to move it.
Do you remember what the winning word was?
No, I didn't go over there because they had it. They moved. So in a very strange turn of events, like they moved the spelling bee because we were scheduled to have a fire drill that day. Right. And so they moved because like the spelling bee was supposed to be the week before. So originally there was no conflict. Right. And so they moved the spelling bee to this day, the same day as the fire drill. So then they moved the fire drill, or they moved the spelling bee up an hour to not compete with the fire drill because then they were going to be at the same time, which is not useful. But then Tuesday was like, it was just raining all morning. So they canceled the fire drill.
Wow.
Yeah. In a strange turn of events. And so like I didn't go to the spelling bee because I wasn't planning on it anyway, because it was like they moved it towards the special class time, right? Which is my plan time. So I was like doing a bunch of stuff. So the English teacher went over there. But so no, I don't remember what their winning word was. Susan could probably tell she was a judge at spelling bee, right? So there we go. They asked the former spelling bee champion to be a judge. So
nice.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good plan there.
Yes.
So yeah. So your new spelling bee champion is in fact a sixth grader. Spelling bee is like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's very weird. But sixth grade one, right? They were all like, and it's like the most sixth grade thing ever because they're like, I don't even want to be in the spelling bee. Like, then why'd you spell all the words right in the practice one? Like, why did you? Like,
don't you know? You just fail.
yeah. They're like, I don't even want to be in the spelling bee. It's like, well, then why did you spell every word correctly? Like, what is?
Yeah, what it didn't have to be.
And so one of the people that totally didn't want to be in the spelling bee won the spelling bee.
As it turns out.
And so that's been fun because they're all like, I don't want to win. And so next I'll be like, yeah, you won. And they're like, yeah. In a very sixth grade turn of events, right? Like, I don't even want to win. But like, they're all, it's like a weird balance between like, they totally didn't want to win, but like, they're also like, yeah, I won, right? Like,
yeah. Right?
So it's like that mix, right? Of like, I totally didn't want to win, but also I won. Like,
so
take that.
Yeah, it's definitely. Well, but we've talked about that. How there's this weird, like, there's this weird transition phase of maturing, and so like there's still so many like of these. I'm not going to say childish, but very youthful aspects of what really motivates them. Versus these new feelings, emotions of how they're processing that as well.
Well, yeah, and like what's quote unquote cool versus not cool, right? And you know, if you're maturing at different rates and all that stuff. So yeah, it's just a challenging thing, but it's also the realization, I believe, that now you qualify for the regional thing in Joplin. Like, oh man, like. And you get to go to that now. So now they're like, dang it.
Yep.
So that's been fun. I'll be like, but now you get to go and show everybody how great you are there. And they're like, yeah, but it's on a Saturday. Right. Like, it's just,
yeah.
So I'm like, oh, so I can come watch you. And they're like, no,
never mind. Oh, thank you.
Like, I mean, I forgot what day it's on.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that's been pretty fun. Yeah, so that's been just my week has basically just been like navigating, like, what are we doing? Where am I? And then like, surprise, progress reports are due this week. And I'm like, what? I don't have what? I got to get all this extra work found. So told the kids today, surprise, progress reports this week. So if your name is back there on that list and your parents don't love the number 0, you should probably
guess what?
Come speak to me in 5 minutes because we got to find this stuff and get it done. So,
Well, catching up with things like that is really hard. And I know if I go like even a day sometimes without touching base with tasks or reminding myself where I was in a process, it's like it never existed. And I sent over, did you watch that video I sent to you about ADHD at all? Did I send that to you?
Oh, yes, you did. I forgot about it till just right now.
Okay.
Yes, I did watch that.
That's right.
It really annoys me. Side note, again, speaking of, that when you just like send a YouTube link, it doesn't send like, it just sends the URL only. It doesn't like give you any sort of context for what it is. Right. So sometimes when you do that, I'm always just like, oh no, do I open this? What is this?
Oh, sure. I should have sent more content. I didn't realize.
It does. I do it too because I forget it doesn't do that. Because like when I send other URL links, it puts like the website title in the text and then the URL. It does like something usually. It doesn't usually just send a blank URL. So I also am guilty of this. I'm like, oh, this would be funny, and I send it, and then I'm like, oh wait, nobody's going to open that because they don't know what in the world it is.
Well, so this video is about ADHD, and it talks about it. It says it's kind of a weird title. It says, "How do you treat ADHD based off of science?" Whatever that means. But whatever. It's a lecture from like 10 years ago by this guy, and in watching this, it was fantastic for me to realize of like, wow, I'm doing a lot of these things just because I was trying to survive in college. Like, okay, like this is why I have to work the way I do, because he talks about how people with ADHD or whatever brains like that, not diagnosing whatever here, but like if your brain functions a little bit more like this, the connection between tasks and time just does not exist, because you have no connection to time or anything along those lines. And it's one of those things about me that I get a lot of frustrated about, where I'm like, oh, that happened yesterday, and Megan will go, that was a month ago, and I'm like, really? Like, what? It's not just me being forgetful. Like I genuinely, in my concept of time, of how things are processed, it's like knowing whether something happened yesterday versus a month ago is very difficult for me. For me, it's like,
oh yeah,
I have to.
I mean, if we start talking about like more than a year ago, I'm like, I don't know how long ago that was.
Yes.
Right? I know. Was it 5 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? Literally the same amount of time. I don't have any idea. Like,
right. And so there's like time processing there. And so one of the things that they talk about is this staying on top of tasks, and of like externalizing time and time periods relating to tasks and important deadlines. So having internally motivating deadlines for things is something that is impossible for me and other people like this. I'm like, I have to have these things written down every day, like consistently. But it's all about externalizing things so that I can keep track of them. And like mental problem solving, a lot of times, pen and paper, having something down in front of you. I think about this a lot because of like the whole like the missing week for you, of just like how maddening that would be to me. Like just like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know how I process being like thrown back into it, being like, continue.
Yeah, well, my problem is that like I already value certain things more than others anyway, right? So like the things that my brain is thinking about is like, okay, what were my like where was I in my curriculum, like my assignments, right? So what was my topic? And then so how do I make sure that we can review that topic and bridge to the next topic, right? If with all that missing time. Like I don't prioritize things like, oh no, my grades, right? Oh no, my assignments need to be graded. Or like I don't prioritize that stuff because that stuff's not important to me anyway. So in a mess like this, it gets pushed down even further. And like this is where my conflict always happens, is because I prioritize other things, and then like my boss prioritizes different things. I'm like, oh no. Now there's a big disconnect between priorities, and the things that I value and need to focus on are not the things that they want to value and focus on. And then I'm like, panic ensues, right? Because now I don't know how to cope in that situation, because like I can't motivate myself to do things that I don't value. Right. So
yeah,
I'm like, okay, so dang it. I don't know. I don't know what to do now. Right. Because I want to do these other things. Like I want to create and make and do stuff. And they're like, we've talked about this before, right? And they're like, spreadsheet, number, blah. I'm like, yawn. I don't.
Yeah, where it's like when there is no internal motivation to do something, it's like,
because I don't find that whatever that thing is not rewarding for me. So I don't have the motivation. So my brain automatically goes to like something else that it wants to do. I can't. I really have the motivation thing is a struggle for me, especially when focus comes into play, because I don't know. Like I struggle with focusing on things that I don't find value in, right? Even though if it's like mandatory tasks that I like must do, and I'm always like I struggle the most with those. Right? If I can't turn it around into something that is like rewarding for me, I guess. And these are kind of like the wrong words, like rewarding and stuff. That's not quite the right vocabulary to be using here, but like just like my brain sees it that way as like, oh, I need to do this because I want to do this, right? Not I have to like want to do it. I have to like twist it around and to make it into something that I want. Otherwise, it won't get done ever.
Yes. Well, finding the like, and it sounds bad, but it really boils down to a lot of like, okay, so like, what's in it for me? And I'm not saying that in a bad context.
Yeah, no,
but like
exactly.
really trying to just eke out, like scraping across everything, being like, what's the one thing? What's the one thing that's going to make me find my motivation for this? Right?
Yeah. Right.
That's hard, and sometimes that's like. For me, a lot of times it's like, how much attention can I focus on this right now? And knowing like it's reading a lot of times. It's like, okay, well, I want to read this because I'm going to enjoy it, or there's a lesson out of here. But just like reading to read a lot of times is insanely hard for me. I really struggled with that. My graduate degrees where it's like, no, you just have to read these papers. And it was like, oh my gosh, I literally can't do this right now. And what was really funny is that this video is that I sent, and I encourage you to watch it again. It's only 13 and a half minutes long. Okay. So it's playing. And then of course, what do? My brain goes, this is really long. So I start scrolling through the comments.
And then you didn't pay. Yeah.
And literally the fourth comment says, you got distracted and are reading the comments during the video, aren't you? Scroll back up and watch.
Oh no, called out the comment section.
I was like, oh, and how fitting on an ADHD videos channel.
It got me.
Scroll. Watch this.
Yeah.
Oh, so anyway, it's just it was just very funny.
That's true.
But it is finding those motivations, and sometimes you just don't have them, and it's really unfortunate that whether you are in school or like in the workforce, of like understanding. And I'm reading this book right now. I can definitely recommend a book, Emotional Intelligence by Collin. Fantastic book. He got a little bit of flack for it because people misread him and basically thought he was saying that IQ, that emotional intelligence completely trumped IQ in every case. And he wasn't saying that. And so basically people took what he wrote and thought he was saying, don't bother going to school and don't bother learning anything and blah, 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 blah. So his new forward says, that's not what I said. But anyway, the emotional intelligence part comes in with understanding like your thinking process and your patterns, and to the point where you catch yourself before you start going down these different paths, and how to set up like buffers and things like that. So I strongly encourage that book, as far as being able to recognize things in you. But I'm reading it a lot now for my staff of how do I help both them understand their own. And it's not emotions in like, oh, do you feel sad? Do you feel happy?
No, yeah.
Right. It's not that, but it's like, how do I help them understand that? Because I recognize in this position and doing this career, it's very emotionally draining. And we come across scenes that startle us or shock us, or we get really afraid when a dog is barking. How do I mentally overcome that? And what's the difference between somebody who can calmly approach a dog versus somebody who immediately retreats in a far back corner and how do I talk them through that? And how do I help them find their own motivations and help me understand what's motivating them, and understand that sometimes it's not their fault that they're not doing something. It's because there's the wires are literally not connected there to make that worthwhile to them to get that done. And then I have to sit and understand, okay, what does it mean for us as a company?
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. If you're working with other people, working in an environment where there's other people, like, or I don't know, let's say teaching people, understanding where they're coming from is like super important, I think.
Yes.
Because like I am aware that I do and say and like think about things in this odd way, right? Compared to a lot of other people, right? And so I think that it's really good to just kind of like know, like, oh, this person thinks like this, right? So if I'm going to talk to them, I have to like understand like that there's things about the way that I do things that are going to be off-putting to them, right? And that they other way around too, right? They're going to do things I'm going to be like, why would you do it like that? But that's just because I don't function that way, right? Like a long time ago when I was a reading coach, we did this thing, right? It was just like really, I don't know what it was called. It was like this really kind of, at the time I thought it was really cheesy, but it was actually pretty good. Okay, they did that right. But it was this little quiz thing and it gave everybody like a color, right? It like assigned you a color based on your personality type, right? And we did this whole thing and then we like talked about it like as a group and did like a group deal about it. And like, so we put like all the people that had matching colors together. And then you had to sort of like talk about what that meant and like present like keywords and stuff about like, it wasn't all that fancy. We like wrote it out on like butcher paper and stuff like that. But
Sure.
but it was like 4 colors. There was like the blue, which is like the very like emotional, like caring, nurturing personality. It was like gold, which was like very organized, like super like type A style, right? There was a green, which I don't remember what green was and how that was different from gold, but it was somehow. And then there was orange, which was me. And it was like, I was like the only one.
Oh no.
And it was the much more like open, like, you know, not like free, like open, like style thinking, like doesn't really care about deadlines, that kind of person, right? Which is what I am. And so it was like me and one other person, and everybody else was in all the other categories. It was really hilarious. That presentation was funny because like we had to get to it. Even showed like it accidentally showed up like even when we were making a list of things that defined us as a group, right? Because the other people, they all took their piece of paper and set it in a place, gave the pen to one person, and as they brainstormed, one person wrote everything in a bulleted list. Right? My group sat crisscross. There was 3 of us actually. We sat crisscross applesauce around the piece of paper. All had markers and all wrote things simultaneously on the paper as we were talking.
Nice.
So there was no up. Right? There was no top of the paper. Nice. And we showed our paper to the other group, and there were visible like shudders. Like they were like, oh, "Why would you do that?"
Yeah.
It was so funny. Like this idea that everybody thinks and processes information manifested itself in writing a list on some paper. Like 5 seconds after we sorted ourselves into groups, which I thought was very hilarious. Like
no, it really it speaks a lot to those once you know those motivations, it changes how you change how you speak to people. Not that you are trying to change or mask who you are, but you become suddenly much more aware of how do I communicate with this person better. That's what it boils down to.
Well, and in an environment like we were working in, right? It also manifests itself into I have to do this thing. I struggle with this. Who now can I seek out to help me? Right? Who can, like, I now know somebody like this thing I'm struggling with. I now know that it's those people over there. That's their strength. Right? And so if it's something I'm struggling with, but it's something that they're really good at, like, well, then I should go talk to them about it. Like if I'm having trouble understanding how to do this or doing this task that I, have problems with, I need to ask them because that's they're like super good at it. Right. So I need to go over there and be like, hey, yo, can you help me? Like show me, kind of help me understand like how this works because I need to do this, but I struggle with this like process. So now I know who can help me. Right. that's the other environment. That's in that the environment that we were working in. That was like a super helpful thing because we were all like working individually with kids at the same time, but like we were also doing stuff like together. You know what I mean? So the environment that we were in really helped facilitate that, which was like super handy and just very helpful just in general of like, oh, these people are good at this. These people are good at this. So like when we had to plan certain things, like certain people were in charge of it, right? When we had to plan other things, like I was in charge of it because that was like my wheelhouse of stuff to do, you know? So it was kind of like, oh, they're going to be really good at this. These people are really going to be good at this. And it helped us be good, like at everything together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because everybody got to play to their strengths a little bit more because we knew like, oh, I need to ask this person. They're really good at this. They're going to rock it. So, but like you talked about, the emotional intelligence is also being able to recognize like, this is my deficiency. I need help. Right. That's a big important step that you have to take. Because if you don't take that step, you're just stuck, like not doing anything.
Or being able to assess just your current state of being. Like I was doing a meet and greet the other day, meeting a new client, and for some reason, I felt off the entire time. And then I sat back in my car and I realized that my heart was actively racing and my palms were sweaty. And I realized something about that interaction was triggering a fear response in me about working or talking or being around this person because their dog was just like over in a corner, like it didn't matter. And it really took me a minute to figure out, like parse through and like, what about that situation sent my body into fear, like a legit straight up, like high rate, elevated blood pressure, heart beating faster, sweaty palms. Like, and I felt like clammy. It was like something about this.
Good grief, man. What in the world?
It was weird. And I really, just what I think it was is I was sent. I feel like it was something along the lines of they just. I feel like how they were responding to my questions started to make me feel like they were an aggressor of their short, quick clips of response, like how they were quipping back when I would say things. It just came off as very adversarial towards me, and my body was sensing and feeling that and starting to react towards like this. Basically, this person's getting ready to attack you. Not that they were, but that's what my body was reading into this. And so I had these like this mix of social cues versus this internalized, unaware subconscious processing of like my subconscious was like, get ready, here we go, it's on, versus my frontal cortex was like, everything should be fine, right? Like this is a normal situation. And it was it was one of the first times that I'd had that happen in a very long time. But trying to be aware of that, at least to try and parse through like what happened, why was that, and then really be in the moment to help understand so that I can hopefully catch that kind of thing sooner next time, or coach other team members on like what that means. So it's fun, I think.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Got it.
You know, and one of the things that
fight or flight responses. Here, laugh riot.
Subconscious fight or flight responses, which unfortunately happen a lot in school settings for various reasons. And I know the Hollywood machine likes to talk about schools, and there are a lot of movies set in schools. And
there are, in fact,
there are a lot. And so, are you ready? Do you want to go into the challenge now?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I forgot to check with you to make sure that you were going to do this week if you had time to. But yes, I have a list. I take it you have one as well.
I do. This one was tricky for me. So I don't know how you want to kick this off.
Yeah, well, we can just start with that. I think that's a good enough segue there.
Okay. Yeah, I write my note here, Collin. So I approached this by defining, because the challenge was what? The challenge was top 5 movies set in a school.
Yeah.
And so I I didn't know what, like I struggle a little bit with like set in. Like, did the movie have to take? In my mind, the movie did not have to take place in the school, like the preponderance of the time.
Yes,
but
That's
they
fair.
did. But so my movies have like my thought of the protagonists coming and going in their normal life to and from or around school
Yeah,
in
no, that's
some
fair.
in some
Yeah,
setting.
it's part of their life. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yes.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
It's kind of how
You should know. You should know by now that these challenges are very vague, and the rules are completely made up as we go along. So it's fine.
And so that was kind of how I went about this. And I don't know. Did you find that search or recollection process easy for you? Did you feel like you had just like 5 that came up like instantly?
I did not have 5. I had like 3, and then was like, And then I got stuck. Right? Like, oh, what other ones are set in the school? Right? Oh, what's going? And so I had to do a little bit of Googling to be like, which, like, and then kind of just like refreshing my brain on some things, right? And I came up with a couple other ones, and there's some that I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty good, but I don't know if I'm going to put it on my list, right? Like, so I kind of shortlisted it, right? I had like a pretty big list, not a big list, but I had a greater than 5 list, and then I kind of like my process in this is always like when we get to the actual list is always like, well, if somebody asked me to watch these right now, how enthusiastic would I be to do so? Right. Like that's kind of how I order them.
Interesting.
That's kind of how I think about like, oh, if I'm like, oh yeah, let's watch it. That means I really like it. Right. That's kind of how that's a correlation for me. So yeah, I kind of do that too. But I had like a couple like real quick. I was like, oh yeah, this movie, I really like that movie. And then after that, there's a lot of movies that are set in schools that are kind of the same movie, right? And so,
well, yes,
there's a lot of sameness, right? Especially to a lot of my movies, and like most of them tend to be about like high school or like college age people, right? And so, I have some of them, especially the ones when I started looking at the list, I was like, oh yeah, which one's that one? Right? Because I don't have a very good grasp on all the time on like which one is which, because they do tend to get a little bit samey here and there. So I tried to pick out some ones that kind of stood out to me, ones that I remember, ones that I like, ones that I remember liking when I was younger and like in that age group. Right? Because some of these movies, again, I haven't seen in a long time. But so like movies that spoke to me when I was closer to that age, or movies that I can watch now and still enjoy, right? Because I think that is important, right? With the like staying power of the movie. Like number one, there's like a nostalgia factor because you're like, oh yeah, I remember being this age, blah, blah, blah. And then there's also like, oh, this movie is still like kind of relevant or like interesting or still makes you think about stuff. And other ones are just like, yep, that's a movie, I guess. So that's what it was hard to what I'm saying, long and short of it here is it's hard to fill out my list, right? It was hard to fill out the rest of it, right? After the couple that I was like, oh yeah, these are really good. And then I was like, or there's one that I was like, no, I have to put this because it's just ridiculous and hilarious, right? And so after that one, then I was like, what else would make sense for this list?
Yeah, and I definitely I tried to think of the movies in terms of how best they fit the spirit of the challenge versus how much I enjoyed them. Of sticking to like what does it mean to be the school or about school. And you're right, I think the fact that maybe hindered it just a little bit was the fact that most of these are like high school, college kind of movies, really. Where there's very few that are, I think, like junior high, some of that, but
some of it, but
it's
I never really liked
it was
much. So
yeah.
yeah, so it is hard. So most of mine, like when I look at this list that I made here, a lot of them, like the majority, like the biggest part of the movie happens at the school or like around the school or near the school, right? But like all the kids, like it's very like a lot of major scenes happen at school, right? Several of these movies have like classroom scenes in them, right? So whether on purpose or not, that was what I got here. So
yeah,
that's my list.
I'll also add the how I don't know how it was very odd the how most of these, I don't know, you could tell me about it, how I felt like most of these were comedies.
Yeah, a lot of them are comedies. Yes,
a lot of these are comedy.
Yeah,
which was an interesting take, and I don't know what that says about the perceptions or the cultural milieu about how they view school or what they're trying to communicate about that. But that was something that I picked up on, and I don't know, probably means some more brain power devoted towards that, but it was just a pattern that I picked up on. I was like, oh, these swing either like one of two ways. Either it's like a horror film set in a school or a straight up ridiculous comedy.
Yeah, not a lot of like straight up dramas on my list. Now, to be fair, I believe that like there are probably some newer movies that are more drama related. Actually, I think I know that there are some movies that are more just like drama related, right? And there's a couple that I'm thinking of now that I didn't put on my list that would definitely fall into that category. But the ones that ended up on my list are definitely not those movies. Right? Maybe it's because I don't enjoy just like super serious movies a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I didn't really think about those until just this exact moment, and it's too late to put them on my list.
Or maybe it's the fact that the movies that came out in the 80s and 90s were mostly mostly comedy.
Oh yeah. So yeah, a lot of my movies appear to be late 90s, early 2000s era. So, which definitely coincides with the time I was in high school. So there's that. There. So that could have played a role in my list as well. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll let you kick us off.
Oh, I thought I was going to let you kick us off since you segued and everything.
Okay, well that's fine. Well, so let me.
And I think I went first last time. So,
okay, that's fine. Okay, so gosh, this is all right. What do? We do honorable mentions, or do we save those to the end? Don't we? Okay.
Do we save those until? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we save those till later.
I am going to go. Oh man, sword.
I know because I have 5 movies and I keep struggling with which order they should be in.
Right? I have 8 total, and it's been.
Well, I mean, I had more, but I narrowed it down to my top 5.
Okay,
but I really am struggling still, kind of with the actual finished order, right? Like, so I have 5, but like, I'm still kind of vacillating on which one should be where.
Well, anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and say that my 5th one is one that I think well, I don't know. This one actually, when did this come out? This one is an early 80s one. And so this one was really about I like this one because it was a lot about dangers of technology and the outcast, but also trying to solve it, and it's also kind of the student solving some of these own problems. So I'm going to throw out 1983's War Games.
Yes.
Okay.
When you started giving that synopsis, I was like my mouth was really like, yes.
And this is one that I, to be fair, have probably only seen like twice ever, and it's
same.
It's been a minute, but I remember really liking this. I mean, it does have Matthew Broderick, and so I really enjoy him, and there are weird things that go in the movie. Don't get everything very very off, but it's definitely like nerdy and and trying to understand the role of the technology in what's going on in the at that time, and the fact that it is, it says in school, and I really do like it a lot. So I don't know. It was one where when we started talking about this challenge, for some reason, this one immediately came to my mind, and I'm still not quite sure why, because really it's like the school part is kind
like
of
tangential, yeah.
to to what's going on, but I think that it is just set to the age group of innocence and not not being fully aware of actions and consequences or what could possibly happen, right? I think that also speaks to a lot of the who they were targeting this to as well.
Yeah, younger kids in the 80s, right? Like technology, bro, like it's all crazy, right? Yeah, that movie's wild, right? Like
yes.
Yeah, the more you talk about it, the more I'm remembering it. And so I'm imagining through a 2023 lens, that movie would just be like insane, right? Like, what is happening?
It's pretty zany, right? and like,
what an excellent word to describe many 80s movies, right?
Zany. I want, a word that probably appeared a lot also in 80s movies.
I mean, it's true. Yeah, it's in the movies, I bet. I bet it was in the tagline for sure. Or in the trailer.
Yes, but it is one of definitely like absurdism, but also like, okay, yeah, like unknowingly start World War III. Sure, why not?
Yeah, fun. Fun.
So I'm going to put War Games at my number 5 for
all right.
That.
I like it. Okay, so my number 5 is a little bit out there. All right. Okay. My number 5 is well, it's the oldest movie on my list, right? This movie is about a high school, right? And there's lots of music in it, but it's not that movie. No, sorry, Lucas Grabeel, not High School Musical.
No.
This is actually 1979's Rock and Roll High School. Right?
Okay.
If you've never seen this movie,
no.
This is a movie. This movie is so ridiculous. And I just put it on here because it's so funny to watch, right? Both because it's like lame and because there's parts that are hilarious, right? This movie is a movie that is set at Vince Lombardi High School. And it's 1979, right? So we've got some very strange cultural things happening in the world, right? But this movie features the Ramones, okay, as a major protagonist.
What?
Like one of the girls in the high school is like super obsessed with the Ramones, right? And she like skipped class to go to a Ramones concert. But this is also 1979, so like rock music is evil, right? And so like the Ramones are bad because they're rock musicians, right? But and like so like the principal is all like, oh no, not the Ramones, they're just the most evil thing ever. And she's like, don't be such a square, man, the Ramones are so cool. It's hilarious. There's all these like really weird things going on in this movie that don't make any sense, right? There's like randomly the Ramones are just playing songs places, right? Too. It's just like full of Ramones songs. Like sometimes they're at a concert, sometimes they're at the school, sometimes they're like this girl's imagining things and they're singing a song in her bedroom. And there's definitely a scene where she opens it up and Dee Dee Ramone is just standing in the shower playing bass guitar while the shower's on. Like fully clothed, and he looks just like a wet dog. It's the most
oh my gosh
thing in the world. It's so has that classic movie moment where they like play the Ramones like but over the loudspeaker to the school, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh. Yeah,
they all
that
fall
classic
in love
trope
with
of playing things over the school loudspeaker.
Yeah.
This movie's just silly. And so that's why it's on my list at number 5. Is because I like watching it. It's not a good movie.
Sure.
Right. We need to make sure that we throw that out there. This movie is not good, but it's fun to watch. Especially if you are a Ramones enthusiast, right? All those Ramones fans out there have probably already seen this. But Yeah, it's just like it's very silly. It's very funny. It has lots of like high school tropes in it, which is weird that they're so well established in 1979. So that means that I missed a lot of high school movies that I never saw where these tropes were already established, right? But like it has a lot of those same things in it. And it's just, but it's played like it's like a high school movie, but like also like kind of like a B level movie at the same time. So it's there you go. My number 5. Got to give a shout out to Rock and Roll High School. And Rip Randall. This is Rip Randall from Rock and Roll High School.
A movie I have never heard about.
Man, there you go.
Okay.
That's what we're really bringing to this list. I imagine this is the one time that our lists are going to be vastly diverse, right?
I sure hope so. Because,
find out. I don't know. Because, last time we ended up having the same list on accident, which was hilarious. But I'm guessing this one might be slightly different.
Very, very close.
I don't know. See, listeners.
We'll see. Because I am also highly aware that that this genre has actually a handful of movies that are actually cult fanatics about.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so I also know many of these like this category of like school things set in schools. There's also they are not divisive really, but people have very strong opinions about them. And
yeah, true.
Which made me, which was hard to pick these because I'm trying to pick some of these like independent of the thinking around things of like, okay, what do I think? And
yeah.
And on my hierarchy of movies set in school, okay, like that's a very key aspect to this. So does the movie exemplify this? And my number 4 really does. It's also, I think, probably one of the best knowns of this genre, and it falls to my number 4 because it's, when you think about the movie, it's The Breakfast Club. It has.
There you go.
I did want it. I did want to have it on this list because, as far as movies set in schools go, it's literally the entire premise.
It's the idea, right? Like
it's the idea. But what I like about it, it's on my list more than just that, though. But because it is teenagers in a room grappling with very real conversations about their lives, and that's another aspect of this that I appreciate. For as much you can deride it from very many things about how unrealistic it is or whatever and blah 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 blah, but like the whole premise of lock people in a room and have them talk, like it does that brilliantly. It does it really well. And the fact that it is also very boring in that like you pretty much know things are going to happen and it's going to be, people's feelings are going to get hurt and they're going to find things out. But I just love how it's structured too, of they all show up one by one, right? They have their day from 8 to 4 and then they leave, right? And it's like, and that's the entire context you have. Like you don't know what happened before, what's going to happen after. Are things really going to be different? You don't know. And so I love it. I actually really like The Breakfast Club. I know many people think it's overdone or it's overhyped or whatever, but I do like The Breakfast Club because it does have some very humanizing aspects as well for real things that real people struggle with, and it's conversations about that, and that gets me almost every time.
Yeah, I like that movie too. That movie just didn't make my list.
Okay,
right? So it was one of the ones I left off just because I think some of these other movies because like I said, my criteria was like, what do I want to sit down and watch like right now? And maybe it's because I've seen it too much, right? But it was just maybe it's like, oh, I know this movie very well, and so I don't want to watch. So maybe I unfairly judged it that way, right?
Sure.
But like, it was real. Like I said, my list was real close, and so I had to leave something off. So it was just that one. I had it on my list originally, and then I switched it to something different. But yeah, I like that movie a lot because, like a lot of other 80s movies, like I like how they just like start.
Yeah.
Right. There's no like, we don't need a ton of like weird exposition. We don't need all this. The movie just begins. And like, it's just like, you're like, what's happening? Why are they doing this? But then you find out later it's fine.
Yeah.
They tell you later. Like the pacing
dialogue.
is pretty good. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like the pacing is pretty good, right? It's pretty interesting. So yeah, I do like the movie a lot, right? But I just had to leave it off just because I had to fit Rock and Roll High School on the list somewhere, so that was important to me. Sorry, but yeah, I like the Breakfast Club too. It's pretty good.
Cool.
But I mostly like the structure, like you said. That's the best part about that, right? And how it's like slow burning a little bit, and then it like, you find out that just like random drops here and there and here and there and here and there. It's broken up with some random action and stuff. So yeah,
yeah,
I like that one. My number 4 is definitely a tonal shift from the serious, introspective nature of the Breakfast Club. Right, we have to travel to the year 1999. Right, when things were weird, fashion was bad, right? Let's be honest. Like, let's be real. It was not good.
Yes.
Things were strange, right? It was a weird time to be alive, specifically in high school. And so, which I would have been in 1999, right? So, we pick a movie that sort of exemplifies all these things. It still grapples with age-old problems, but it puts a weird spin on them. It's a little bit, 90s, right?
Uh-huh.
You have a lot of classic movie tropes in this, right? Fish out of water, right? The art kid, the preppy kid, the jock kid, right? They're all there. They're all intertwining. They're all vying to become, their best selves or, different selves, right? A little journey of self-discovery. Uh-huh. This is, of course, 1999's She's All That, right? Starring Rachel Lee Cook and Freddie Prinze Jr., right? This this is the classic, like, fish out of water story, right? This is a trope that you have now seen just like beat to death, right? But when this movie came out, it wasn't really quite flogged so into the ground yet. But this is like the nerdy outsider art girl, right? Like, basically the premise of the movie, for those who don't know, is like the popular football guy like makes a bet that he can make anybody the prom queen, and his friend like chooses Rachel Lee Cook, the like nerdy art girl. And then like he like tries to do that, but then he like actually grows to like her and care about her, fall for her. That classic storyline, right? Played out in a series of zany 90s events, right? But I think the movie's good. I like it. It's kind of cheesy, right? It's a little bit lame. That's why it's number 4. But it's also pretty. It's fun. It's fun, right? It's fun. It's not serious, really. There are some serious discussions in there because they talk about like her family, like struggling, right? Like single dad and like all that stuff. And she is trying to help take care of her family, and she does not have time for Freddie Prinze Jr.'s baloney, right? She don't got time for that nonsense. Like, you're not gonna treat me like this way, But so I like the movie a lot. Silly, yes. Dated, absolutely. Do I enjoy it? Yes. So that's why.
Man, this is weirdly okay. So this is another awful movie set in 1999. Also, this is not on my list at all. But as you're describing this, I was like, wait a minute. There's another movie in 1999 that has this almost exact same premise, but for a slightly different reason. And it's a terrible movie, Cruel Intentions. Did you ever see this movie?
Oh man, yeah. I did. Yeah. So, that movie is much worse than She's All That. Right?
Yes. Anyway, so I just
when you're talking about bullying and like yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's
She's All That. It's much more lighthearted and fun, right? Like,
yes, it was just weird. I was like, oh, that also came out in 1999. That's bizarre. Okay. Anyway, well,
yeah. It's a weird. Yeah, that is a really weird like dichotomy. Like, those two movies they share a lot of similarities, but they're very, very different tones going on here, right? Like, very different tonality.
Yeah, I and something that my number. So anyway, I have all the She's All That. I think I've seen exactly that maybe one time. So again, not really on my radar.
Oh, I definitely saw it more than one time. I
okay,
like that movie.
great. So my number 3 is one that I saw quite a lot. Interestingly, this movie also came out in 1999. And okay, so we're going for 4-3 here. One that I have probably watched, oh my gosh, a half a dozen or more times, and is one of those movies that were really popular about this time, where it was taking old literature and turning it into in a modernized setting, modernizing it. And this one was specifically based on the Taming of the Shrew.
Oh yeah,
and
I know what you're talking about.
And and it manifests in the 10 Things I Hate About You.
This movie is so good.
I really, really like this movie. Everything about it is great, and I mean, gosh, it has Heath Ledger in it. Which it's like one of his, I don't know,
that's one of his first movies. One of his first. He's very young in that movie.
Yes, he's very.
As is Julia Stiles, a very young Julia Stiles, also in this movie.
Yeah, and I think this was one of. This was one of the movies. This was the movie that really elevated them, and even Gordon Levitt was in this too.
Yeah,
all of these went on to have very illustrious careers for various reasons and stuff. And
the friend whose name I can't remember, that guy, he's in just like a lot of movies randomly, right? The Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like friend in that movie or whatever.
Oh,
the other kid, like he's in like just a bunch of random stuff too, like
David Krumholtz.
Yeah,
that guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, David, forgot your name.
David,
my bad.
Yeah. From Santa Claus fame later on.
Yeah. That guy, Bernard, right? He was in other stuff too, but yeah,
sure, it's fine. But yes, this was also the one of the kind of that unlikely pairing of people, but also very likely of a lot more in common than they originally realized. And
it does have similar themes to She's All That, right? There's a bet involved, right? But it's a way more shifty bet, right? It's way weirder. It's way more creepy, right? Like
yeah, it's not, the premise is, anyway. So but yes, it's very interesting that family dynamics also have some father issues going on in there a little bit. So but absolute classic for me, and has to be included on my list.
Yeah, definitely. That movie's great.
My number 3.
All right. Very nice. My number 3, I think when I was thinking about movies that are set in a school, right? School is like a scary time for some people, right? It's like nerve-wracking, right? There's a lot of unknowns really going on there. And so I feel that this movie kind of exemplifies a lot of that. There's a lot of like discovery and like trying to figure things out and like trying to understand the world around you and like, that kind of thing. I think that movie has a lot of these themes in it. This movie has a lot of those themes in it, right?
Okay.
And so it goes on my list because of that, right? Not just because of that, because it's also much more, I don't know, whimsical. Some might call it magical. I am going with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for my number 3.
Oh.
Right. This is what I'm putting on my list here.
Nice.
Just because this is like the first Harry Potter movie specifically is like a movie about school.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about, because it's the first part of the octilogy or whatever the movies ended up being, right? I don't know. Like it's really setting a lot of stage, right? And the novel functions the same way. It's like it's a lot of stage setting, but in a way that's not like super overbearing and expository, right? Which is annoying. So this movie is a lot of like just like whoa, what's this? Like being a new environment. They attend classes in this school, but it's like weird classes, right? Like there's strange things happening. It's about navigating school. It's about navigating friend groups. It's about navigating unfriendly groups, right? uh, you know, and it has it all, but it has it in a setting that's just like really cool and fun and like exciting and interesting. And in 2001, like very new, right? And so I put that on my list as number 3, just to kind of like, out of all of the Harry Potter movies, like that's the most schooly one, right? It's that maybe, yeah, I think that's the most schooly one because it's the first year, everything's new. They're learning about the environment. They're making friends. They're making enemies. They're doing all this stuff, right? Like,
because
it's like the most schooly.
Yeah, the rest of the movies that use the school as the backdrop for the rest of the adventures of the growing world outside from there. Like this is definitely like learning. Like the foundations are set for both the viewer and the characters of this is the school. This is the world you are existing in. And what I appreciate about this movie, this one, by the way, spoiler alert, is my number 1.
So we can save it again for talking about it if you want.
No, that's fine. No, I'm afraid to talk. I can talk about it now because I think I think I'll go ahead and talk about it now. It's of this one, it does you are exploring that unknown with the characters. With you, everything is new and wild, and you are processing all that, and that you get to go along that adventure with them. And it very much speaks to the time of new school, whether you're moving, going into a different grade, all of those same things can be applied. Of everything just seems so crazy. You don't understand why we're doing this. We're just doing it. Why are we on carriages or boats or things like that? That's just what we do. There's a troll. Of course there is. Like it's just what like it's just, you have to just go, right, this is what it is, right? This is just the world. And I think that translates perfectly into navigating a lot in in a school setting of just like, in my school, sometimes there are just things I don't know why the classes are 55 minutes long or whatever. It's just what it is. And I don't know why we do this. And I feel like that kind of world really does help set up to walk you through that quite a bit.
Yeah. And it's just so that, I just really like that movie, right? Sure. Because it's like fun. Things don't get like dire yet, right?
No, it's not dark.
Like literally dark. Like, why can I not see what's happening? Like, but it's really setting a lot of stage, and it's just, it's a very fun movie to watch, right? So I put it at number 3 just because it's fun and lighthearted, and it's like a very setting a tone for an adventure, right? And exploring this new environment that they're going to be in, right? I think that's really cool. Lots of discovery, lots of learning, lots of stuff like that. So
I can get on board with that. Obviously, I can get on board. That's my number 1. My number 2 follows in that same theme of self-discovery, a lot of personal development, family bonding over and relating to each other, especially with your parents, of bonding over new adventures that you're having and shared common interests, and a lot of sacrifice of doing something for somebody else because it's it's good for them, while also trying to navigate the school system and trying to have a life there. And so this one actually came out in 1995. So I'm going a little bit older here. And I am, of course, talking about a Goofy movie.
Yes!
Now, a good chunk of this movie does not take place in school, but the whole premise of this is based on Max getting having some issues at school and doing a big event, and not people not wanting to have him back, and so he goes on the big vacation to get reconnected with his dad. All the while, there's all the other drama going on, but it's based on this, not necessarily, I'm not going to say coming of age, because it's not that to me, but it is much more of the bonding with family and
well, there is some like maturity arc going on there, so it's a little bit. He's a little bit of that, like, because he goes through some stuff, right? There's a little bit of that, like, maturity, like realization of what's going on, and like, oh, maybe I was the jerk all along, right? Like there's
yes.
So there's some of that in there. A little dash of that.
It is, but it's also, again, as far as being set in a school setting, I think they play the angsty, frustrated teenager pretty well in this. And you definitely relate to him on many aspects of what he's trying to do. The whole, like, the cover says it all. It's hard to be cool when your dad is goofy. Literally, he's goofy.
Boom.
So
there you go. Yuck. Right?
Yuck. Yeah. Exactly. So this one is one that I could watch quite a bit and have always enjoyed it. And I think it's my number 2.
Yeah, that movie is great. I probably would have put that movie on my list if I would have remembered it existed before just right now. So yeah, that's a really good one. I like that movie.
Okay.
Right. That also gives me another honorable mention, though, to think about, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But first, my number 2, we have to travel forward in time just a few years to the broody year of 1998, right? This movie's a little bit darker. Again, both like tonally and actually, where did the director of photography go? Why is it so dark in here?
Nice. Okay.
Right. But this one's a little more sinister, right? A little more sinister. So I would like you to imagine, a class, right? This is late 90s. So like, the kids are all like slackers, right? Right. This movie is a movie very much about like the other kids, right? Like not necessarily the popular kids, right? Sometimes it's different groups of people that save the day, right? Sometimes you find heroes in unlikely places, right? But compelling circumstances requires people will show up and do things in circumstance when circumstances get dire, right? Like if you crossed a high school movie with Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? I am talking about 1998's The Faculty. I really like this movie.
Get a bit darker there.
Yeah, it's very darker, right? So this movie's basically weird alien things take over the body of teachers and students of the school, right? They start with the faculty, obviously, as the name implies, right? And like, so this movie is kind of a slow build where like things seem all normal, and then things just start getting like weird, like strange, right? And these group of kids kind of are like, what in the world is going on here, man? Like, what's going on? And they sort of slowly uncover that they've been taken over by these like weird alien ear slug things, right? It's like whatever they are. Like you kind of get this, like they're coming to take over and all that stuff. So it is very Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but in a high school. Right. And of course, starring like a very young Josh Hartnett, right, in the leading role here as the like slacker drug dealer guy, right? But he's like also like really smart and really clever, but like nobody gives him a chance, right? And he's one of the main guys in this movie. Like the movie's just kind of cool, right? The premise is kind of weird and kind of strange, but like it's done really well. There's some really interesting scenes in this movie. There's some pretty memorable stuff. I really like it. I really like The Faculty. Like I don't really like horror movies at all, really. But this one's kind of like it's a serious movie, but it doesn't really feel like it's taking itself super serious, right? Like the tone is very interesting. It's a tone that I can get behind and I like it, right? So it's like it's not like super like weird and stuff. It's like it's well written because the premise is interesting enough to make the movie good. Right. Yeah. A lot of horror movies, like the premise is so lame that nothing you do or write will make it any good at all. And it's just like boring. Right. You're like, oh no, don't go there. They told you. Like that's what that's what happens when I watch horror movies. I don't like it. Right. But this one is like in the horror category. It's not like super scary or anything like that, but I just like it. Right. I just like this movie. I like the pacing. I like the kind of this discovery, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? The sense of urgency of like, we have to figure out what to do, right? There's a lot of like DIY of like, oh my gosh, like we got to come up with this plan. Let's do this. Let's do that. Right. There's all this kind of stuff about working together, unlikely people working together to solve this like big problem that's, happening like that. So I like it. It's a fun movie. So yeah, there we go. I like The Faculty. That's my number 2 movie.
Okay.
I also can't look at one of those big, those big paper cutters in schools. Right.
Yes.
I can't look at one of those the same after watching The Faculty, because they definitely like smack somebody in the head with one of those things.
Yeah.
Like one of the aliens.
Yeah.
And so every time I look at one of those like at work, I'm like, ugh. I have this reaction of like,
like, hello, intrusive thought.
Yeah, it's one of those. It just jumps to the forefront of my brain, like this image of somebody getting whacked in the head with that. Like, yeah,
they're scary enough. Right?
Yeah, they're already like, I'm already like, don't put your fingers here, don't do this. And so, having seen that movie, it's like, no, don't.
Oh. Well, as I already mentioned, my number 1 is Harry Potter's Sorcerer's Stone, because of all the reasons that I have mentioned and outlaid. So I'll just go back through my 5 to 1, and I'll let you announce your number 1. So my number 5, this is a very interesting list. Just really looking at this, like
it's very diverse. I like it though. I like this.
The two that came to my mind immediately were my number 5, which was War Games. For again, I don't know what. Anyway, and then my number 1, which was Harry Potter. So like that tells you a lot. But yes, number 5 was War Games. Then The Breakfast Club is number 4. Then 10 Things I Hate About You, a Goofy Movie, and then Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Very excellent. Well, my number 1 is also the already mentioned 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, hey! Oh, that's weird. Okay, so your number 3 was my number 1, and my number 3. Okay,
yeah, we swapped 3 and 1. That's pretty good. I like that. I'm okay with this. Yeah, for all the reason that we already mentioned, I really like this movie. I didn't know if we should spoil that or not that early on, but so there we go. I didn't.
I did mine.
That's right. Yeah, okay. So I really like that one. So my recap would have been number 5, Rock and Roll High School, the movie that this falls into categories of movie that nobody else has seen but me, that I know. Right, me and like one person I know have seen this movie. Number 4, She Is All That. Number 3, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Number 2, The Faculty. And number 1, 10 Things I Hate About You.
Okay. That's very good. Very good. My honorable mentions, I think 2 of these are on here because they get of their overplayedness, and where to the extent of, I do think there's a little bit of clichéness about them, even though I do enjoy them. My first honorable mention is School and Adventure and Friendship. It's Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I left mine off for very similar reasons. I left the movie off my list for similar reasons as well. Like
it was on there, but the more I stared at it, the more I was like, and honestly, like truly, The Breakfast Club was almost off the list for this exact same reason of it's a bit too cliche to have it on this kind of list. But I like The Breakfast Club that much more than Ferris Bueller, so that's why it was on my list.
No, that's fair. That's definitely fair.
Another one that
hold on, one more thing about Ferris Bueller. Also, the older I get, when I watch Ferris Bueller, I like him less and less as a human being.
Yes.
So like, I feel like now, being the age that I am, watching him, even though like I am fully aware this movie took place in like the 1980s, right, and different times and all that, like I just don't like him. Like when you're young, you're like, oh, it's so cool, it's so blah. But when you're old now, like me, you're like, he's kind of a jerk, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I was trying to look up something here real quick. But yes, you do definitely start to identify more with the like parents and teachers.
Well, I don't. I still don't identify with Rooney. That guy's annoying too. But
well, anyway,
you're just like, man, Ferris is kind of annoying. Like, why did everybody like that guy? I don't even know. Like, I was like,
yeah. So I let's see here. Anyway, so I yes. So that was that one. My other honorable mention was another one that is just overplayed, but I think it's one that I will try and put on some other list. I didn't feel like it fit really just school movies. So I'm going to find a purpose for this a little bit more here. But it's Dead Poets Society.
Yeah.
Like it's to me it means a bit more than this list. So I was hesitant to put on it again. Also, there is this bit more like, oh, like it's in a school and whatever. But really, I genuinely love this movie, but I didn't think it quite fit what I was putting together with the Goofy movie and War Games. So
that's fair. It's a bit more serious tone, right? A little bit, right?
It was. And then the last one is an honorable mention because it's another one that after my brain said War Games and then Harry Potter, it said this movie, but I don't actually like this movie. And it's Matilda. And
yeah. I came across that movie and I think I saw it once and was like,
I have seen this twice, and each time I go back and review this, I'm reminded of my disdain for this movie. but I think in the far context of like movies and school, it raises above other ones that I could have put on this list. But it is on here purely because it was very quick to come to my mind when I thought about these kind of movies. I look at her like it's one of those movies. Okay, so this movie for whatever reason falls into the category of movies that I struggle to watch because of how kids are treated by their parents or people in their lives. And this is supposed to be like her overcoming that and like, you know, an adventure or whatever. But like fewer things in movies make me as angry and like vitriolic as children being abused, neglected, or like looked down upon by their parents. Like I have very little tolerance for that. Yeah. Like plus the cake eating scene is just gross and whatever. But anyway.
Oh, why'd you have to remind me about that? No.
Eat the cake. So this is
rude.
only on here because it came to my brain of movies that happened in school.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Right.
You're welcome.
Fair enough. Yeah, some of my honorable mentions were The Breakfast Club was on there. Okay. I know a lot of the other like real big, like popular like 80s movies, like even the John Hughes movies, like I don't really like them that much. Like 16 Candles, like I don't like it, right? That's like, you know, it's not really so much in school, but it's a brown school. There's a lot of school stuff in there. So it's like, I don't know. I like that one very much. There's a lot of other like more serious movies about school, like with the Freedom Writers movie or whatever about like teaching English class and like, you know, Harlem or wherever that is. I don't remember movies like that. Right. You know, it's much more serious. There's a lot of other high school movies, school movies, but they're like much more sports movies. Right. So that's a different list altogether. Right. Because that's another very common one. I thought of a couple of those. I was like, no, that's a sports movie. Can't put that here. That doesn't work out. Right. And then there are like Dead Poet Society. There's another one. So what is that? Skull and Bones movie. That's like a college-y movie.
Yeah.
Again, I don't really like that movie either, but I remember it existed. Right.
Yeah.
I also thought about Encino Man.
Oh.
But I don't think I can put any movie with Pauly Shore on a best of list. Even though you did, he was in the Goofy movie, I think technically, right?
Yeah,
or a person pretending to be him.
Yes.
But it's only for like 5 seconds, so that's fine.
Yeah.
We can have a whole separate discussion about Pauly Shore later.
He has been discussed briefly.
Yeah.
on this podcast.
But again, to recap my thoughts on Pauly Shore, he's fine as a side character. Right. So like in Encino Man, he's funny because Sean Astin is the main character. And Brendan Fraser is the main character. And Pauly Shore is there.
Yeah.
After those movies, there's a bunch of movies. There's a couple of movies like that. And then there are movies where Pauly Shore is the lead. That doesn't. No, that doesn't work. That's a bad decision. Nobody should have done that ever. Right? Like, so we can come back to those later. But
anyway, you said Encino Man, and my brain went, what's that movie? And then I looked at one image from it and I was like,
do you remember?
My gosh, that movie.
Yeah. The movie's actually pretty good, right? I like that movie. It's a pretty good movie. It's solid as far as movies go.
I love Brendan Fraser in.
I do too.
Oh my gosh. He's so wonderful.
I'm really glad he's back and doing things, right? That's good. Yes. That makes you happy, right? But I just didn't put that one on my list because Like I like these other ones better, but I think Encino Man's a good, solid movie, right? It's a pretty good one, right? And
Yes, it's a good
it's
one.
very funny. It's a very early 90s. Like, oh boy, that movie will just slap you in the face with early 90s, right? Like, hello. But
oh my gosh. Okay, sorry.
did you look at a picture and go, that's a lot of acid wash denim? Oh my goodness. I can't.
Oh, okay. Oh man. And just like you, now I'm having all sorts of flashes of other movies that I'm like, oh, okay, we may have to do a take 2 on this. But anyway,
yeah. We can add to it later, right? It's fine.
Sure.
Because now I'm done.
For some reason, I was just thinking about this, and I was like, oh, I didn't like. Where would I put Princess Diaries on this? Like, that's certainly a movie.
It's a very school movie. Right.
No, not very school.
But is it top 5?
No,
movie,
it's not.
Though,
it's not. It's a good movie, but not top 5.
Yeah.
Things. But yeah, there's this. I know the internet lists of these movies are very heavy 80s.
Yeah.
Early.
There's 90s. There was a lot of 90s, 2000s. There's a bunch of other ones that I kind of remembered that I didn't see on any list, so that must mean they're bad. Like like I think that's what it's telling me. Like the fact that no internet list contains the movie The New Guy. That must tell you that movie is bad. I don't really remember a lot about that movie. I just remember that it exists. So I don't really know, but it must not be that great. That movie's very cheesy, I seem to remember. So it didn't make the list because I don't remember a lot about it. And it's definitely not better than She's All That. So that's where you're at, right? You can't.
Yeah. No.
My top 5 has a strong gatekeeper, right? Would I rather watch this other movie X, or Rock and Roll High School?
That's a
no.
Yeah, that's really strong. It's definitely a word for it. That's for sure. So okay, well,
free. It was free on YouTube last time I watched it, so you can find it. It's not very long, and it's really cheesy.
Well, I think that should tell you a lot about the movie. It was free on YouTube.
Yeah, brilliant quality.
Well, this is going to make quite the movie night.
Yeah,
I think we should put that together. So I like these 5, these 10. 10 movies.
Yes.
And we only shared 2. We only shared 2 of them. I think that speaks a lot.
Pretty good. Yeah. We have diversification there.
Yes, look at that.
See, listeners,
for once.
We're not planting this. We're not accidentally. See, I knew this one wouldn't be different. Like, because the last couple times we came up with the exact same list almost.
So we did. Literally.
Which is really funny.
Yeah. I'm scrolling back specifically the best 5 cat movies.
It was there's only one that was different, I think, out of all of them. They were just in different order.
Yes, exactly. So it's quite fantastic. Yeah. You threw in Oliver and Company, and I threw in Adventures of Milo and Otis. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, not recapping.
Oh yes, the chatbot can recap this for you.
Yes. This is what I'm saying, right? This is what I'm saying. So I'm going to continue to figure out how to implement one of these things, and we'll get it trained on our.
There we go.
Content.
Just in time to launch our live podcast, right? We could do it live then, so we can have the chatbot follow along with you.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
There we go.
Recap the things that we said. What did they
be
just
hilarious?
Say?
Yeah. Boom.
Okay. Well, that sounds terrifying. So
it does actually. Yeah,
we'll move quickly on from that and that horror escape. Hello, overlords. Anyway, so we'll.
We could do a premiere live, and then we could have the chatbot going through the live chat as we premiere the recording live. See?
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
There you go.
We'll work on that technology. I don't know when, but we'll do our best to do that.
Or we'll just do this. Whatever.
I think we'll stick to this.
Yeah.
And on that bombshell, we'll end there. Okay.
All right.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.